nice and easy. So, with that, thank you so much for taking a minute out for the program today. I appreciate it.
Oh my gosh, no, thank you.
Yeah. So, before we get into book launch day, I want
Yeah.
to know this. 5 years ago, this pandemic was changing everything for all of us. How did
Uh-huh.
you get through that coronavirus era? And how has it influenced the way that you live and putting your book out?
Well, the coronavirus, I mean, the pandemic changed everything for my company, and me personally, actually. So my husband and I had only been married a few years, and we both travel for work. And so that was the first time we spent 3 months together since we were married in like one household, and we survived that. So that was impressive. Um, and then for my company, we manufacture handbags and school shoes in Haiti, and the country really quickly shut down. So it was kind of an amazing quick response for Haiti, like in Haiti terms. So they, shut everything down. And then that they mandated that we only operate at 30% capacity in our factory. So 70% of our team couldn't be at work. And we had to like figure this rotating schedule out. And although we're taxed very heavily in Haiti, like it's very European how we're taxed, there are zero services or protections for my business, for my team. So it was this like kind of interesting thing where we had to like figure out, okay, how are we going to ensure the team stays safe and financially secure through all of this? And a lot of the team members went out into the countryside and like learned different things about the communities they were in. And the biggest takeaway was kids need school shoes. And at this point, we were a leather manufacturing company making handbags and small leather goods. And we're like, well, why don't we just make school shoes? Like, why don't we make a product for local consumption? Like, why don't we do that? And so we spent the next few years developing, designing culturally appropriate school shoes for Haitian school children. And that's become like a huge line of business for us now, working with NGOs, missions, churches, trying to get them to buy locally in Haiti instead of importing either used or, school shoes from the States or other places. And so it's been, COVID was a huge transformation for us. Yeah, we survived it as a business. I survived my marriage. So, it's all good.
That's it. So,
Yeah.
I have a jazz radio show, and there's a friend of mine that's a poet and a musician from New Orleans, and he does relief work in Haiti and works with the Haitians,
Mm.
and he glows about the adversity that they can face, but the positivity and the joy they have. And he was even telling me this, in the entire world, Haiti has the lowest suicide population, and apparently the locals say they don't have time for all that. That's their catchphrase.
That sounds about right. I mean, because I'll tell you, what brought me to Haiti in 2010 was the earthquake. I'm a
Yeah.
trained disaster responder, and so I was only supposed to be deployed for like a month. But it was being like so very similar to your friend, like being around Haitian people, for me, particularly Haitian women, I was like, this is the kind of woman I want to be. I want
Yeah.
to be strong and brave and, you know, um, courageous and go getter. Like I wanted to stay. And so I moved to Haiti for 5 years because of that, because I wanted to be, a part of a community that behaved and responded to adversity in that way. It's really, Haitian people are truly amazing.
It's fascinating to think about the different regions of the world and how they manifest happiness and contentment and
Mm.
fulfillment. And I say that because there was a show on Hulu for a while, Rainn Wilson from The Office, Dwight, had a show and he's always just been a little depressed. So he wins awards, he's had a great career, he's a wonderful actor, he's got a wife, he's got kids, he's got all of these things on paper that are
Mhm.
just like he's fine, but he's always
Yeah.
just been a little sad. So what he decided to do was to go out and visit like different parts of the world to see what makes people happy. So the first place he went to
Mhm.
was Iceland. And you would figure because of the cold and the adverse conditions, but they are one of the happiest people in the world. And there's
Huh.
a level of adaptability because the weather's uncertain, but there's this beauty. And I would imagine that Haiti is just a beautiful place. Like there's a
Yeah.
level of them in their DNA that feels the earth and the way the environment is and beauty, and they understand it in a different way than other countries in the world.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that because nobody normally like associates beauty with Haiti, but really it has the most gorgeous beaches and these gorgeous mountains. I mean, so you can be like walking through a waterfall one day and the next day be laying on a beach and having somebody fetch it like a fish for a fresh crab and bring it right to you. And I mean
Yeah.
it's wildly, wildly incredible. Of course, the poverty is pervasive and the lack of opportunity is uncanny. But in general, like, Haitians make the best of it. And
Yeah.
that's why I wanted to start a business there, just because I wanted to be a part of that. And you know, I wanted to see if economic freedom really did change things for people. And my God, does it ever.
I there was a movie a while back with Tobey Maguire called Pleasantville, and part of it was in black and white, part was in color. And I think about that with Haiti because when I look up pictures of it, it's like just colors. It's almost like Hawaii. It's just vibrant and blue
Yeah.
and all the colors pop. So, that's my perception of it. But
I love the perception of Haiti.
I'd love to see it someday for sure.
Oh, me
Yeah.
too.
So let me ask you this. If I was to get an accurate handle on what you do for a living on a daily basis, I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of 12-year-olds at career day. You're in a school, and the kid in the back of the room is like, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you
Mhm.
answer that child?
Um, it's complicated because there's so many different things that an entrepreneur does, right? But I would
Yeah.
tell them that I work for a company that makes beautiful fair trade handbags and tries to get women and people all over the world to buy things that are made well and made fairly and that have integrity behind them. And then I also design shoes and bags and purses every season and work with the very talented craftspeople of Haiti to manufacture these goods.
You know, everybody, I think most sentient humans want to preserve this for the next generation, preserve the world, and do their
Mm.
part in doing that. And with what you're doing, what impelled you? What ultimately made you decide that you're going to do something a little bit more difficult, but that will ultimately be beneficial to planet and human?
Well, when I first, like I said, I was a disaster responder, so I just went working logistics and doing things that people do, handing out tarps and bottles of water, and just coordinating, one of the worst disasters on the Western Hemisphere. And something was just in me, like just kept like saying, like, this is not so. We're not doing something right here, or something's wrong, something's wrong. And one day, a woman said to me, "Hey lady, I don't want a bottle of water, but I need a job." And it like kind of like was like lightning through my chest. I was like, that's it. And I decided I didn't want to be a part of the short term. I mean, and of course during disasters you need everything, but I decided I wanted to be part of a long-term solution, and I wanted to figure out what that meant. And job creation was the ultimate thing. And I just wanted to be a part of something like that. And our business has evolved from different things, from sandals to handbags to shoes to throughout the last 15 years. But the premise was always create great jobs and do as much good for the environment as you can. So our factory is solar powered. We use responsibly sourced leather. We do the thing. You do what you can,
Yeah.
because especially in our industry in fashion, with fast fashion and all the horrible ways that people can manufacture and pollute, we want to try to change that as much as we can. So even if we like drip on people, I tell everyone, I said, we're in the belly of the beast, because fashion is ferocious and it is, tough industry to be in. But like a big win for us is we recently got into Nordstrom's, and I was like, okay, so here we are, this tiny little fair trade brand in this sea of giants. But like, if every person that now is introduced to us has an opportunity to say, okay, well, now I do have a choice. I could buy a fair trade leather bag, or I could buy a mass produced leather bag. And we just want to give that option to people,
Yeah.
so.
It reminds me, I interviewed an entrepreneur about 3 months ago. He takes all of the foam that are used for insoles that they cut around. They make the mold, they have the mold and they cut through,
uh
and he gets all the scrap and he makes insoles for athletes, and all these sports and athletes and teams are like subscribing to it. So he does his own kind of spin on it, but it's all recycled from all
Love
these
it.
factories. You know what I'm saying? It's like, what a wonderful idea. I mean, and then it made me start thinking, what do I see all the time, especially in the Midwest? I see all these old grills. What if someone could melt all that metal down and make like a really custom cool grill, like shaped like a guitar or something like that, right? You know?
I think you just found your next project.
Right, I know. Exactly. I need to do it. Um, so before we leave that schoolhouse too far, wander too far away, when you were 12, what did you want to be when you grew up? What was your dream job?
Oh, well, you won't believe this, but I used to be a professional dancer.
Okay.
And while I was doing disaster response, I also worked for a company called New Vision Cirque, and I was an aerial chiffon artist. And so I always wanted to dance and perform and do that. And I was lucky enough that I did get to do that as a grown up. But and also being in Cirque and performing, when a disaster hit, I could deploy. And when I'd run out of money, I'd go back and go into the show again. So it kind of worked out amazing for me. But yeah, I always wanted to be a dancer.
So let me ask you that where were you born and raised?
I was born in New York, but we moved
Okay.
to Florida
Okay.
um, quite when I was quite young.
Okay.
So,
So what were the foundational elements that led you to dance, that led you to relief work, and to ultimately make a company that's environmentally conscious, writing a book? What were these early seeds that were planted that were
mm.
harvested into who you are today?
Well, my parents were very entrepreneurial themselves. My father immigrated to America when he was 5 from Italy. And it's like the American dream story. He was the first one to go to school, to go to college, to graduate. He was a research scientist. I mean, he made it. Like my grandmother could never read and write in her own language nor speak English. So it was just like watching these things happen. And I actually, as I was writing the book, I interviewed a ton of people, of course, and I found out that my grandmother, when she immigrated here, worked in a factory making $3 a day, taking the pits out of cherries
Wow.
for was it Comstock? I think it was called Comstock. And I thought to myself, man, and now her granddaughter is a co-owner in a factory in the developing world, doing it. It's kind of amazing, like
Yeah.
when you do think about where you come from. And like why I have what I have is because of my parents. And my parents, my father left, he left research science and opened a bakery, believe it or not. And I think he always did that, an Italian bakery, because he wanted to reconnect with his roots. And it was a family owned business. And my parents insisted that me and my two sisters work. And so we always worked from when we were little girls. Like we would have to stand on Pepsi crates to wash dishes and do all that stuff. And I think that value instinctively of working was put into us at an early age. And so all my sisters and I are all financially independent and have our own careers. And I think that was something. And I realized that we only have that because we have the opportunity to have that.
Yeah.
And so when I went to a place where that opportunity wasn't present, I wanted to help change that.
Yeah. My great grandparents came from Italy. My dad was 100%. He's born in Brooklyn, raised in Long Island, and his sister married into kind of their family. They were the Severolis and they had a pasta empire, but they had a pastry shop. So when I would go up there, I would just be like, that was when the Buttafuoco thing was happening. So they would all be up there bad mouthing what's going on with this bozo and all this. And but I remember every time I would go up there, my dad would get a box of pastry, and on the way to LaGuardia, he would eat the whole box and have agita the whole way home. It looked like he arm wrestled a ghost. There was just powdered sugar all over him. But it's interesting when you mentioned having a relic. When my grandfather passed, I didn't know him that well, but they gave me his pocket knife, and he worked in a shoe factory, and you could see on the knife one shiny spot where he would cut the calluses off his hands at night. So I remember all of those kinds of things.
Oh,
Yeah, it's
amazing.
yeah, and that kind of lineage just kind of soaks in. So have you been to the old country?
I did. So a few years ago, I went with a friend of mine, and she planned the whole trip because she was amazing. And I am lastminute.com. So that my one day was when we were going to visit my family. Of course, the train was all sold out. So we had to rent a car, got up to, it was a place called Chilano, this
Yeah.
very small town. And I'll never forget when we got out of the car and we're kind of walking around, this gentleman sees us and he goes, Americans. And brought us into this shop. All I had to do was say my last name. They brought me to where my father's house was. The next door, the people across the street knew who I was, knew my grandmother, knew my father when he was a
Wow.
baby, brought us in, fed us like the 9-course meal that you get,
Yeah.
took us around town. It was
That's
incredible.
so cool. Yeah.
It was so cool.
So when my dad knew I was going over, I'm the only one in all of the generations to go over there. Uh,
Me too.
yeah, I had a pen pal in high school that lived south of Florence in a little town called Castelfrentino, and they owned this like restaurant. And I went out there, and then I went to Rome, and Then went
Mm.
back and went to Venice. But I remember when I went out there, my dad was like, when you go into a town and you see a phone book, rip all the Dominos out. So I came back with all of these ripped pages from all these little towns. I would just stop and I would take it out. And that was right on the cusp. It was around 2000. It's probably on the cusp of like the cell phone revolution, and no one probably missed it. But it was just that was his request. Get all the
That was
Dominos. So
cool. That's cool.
yeah, it was fun. So let me ask you this. Who has consistently been an inspirational force, a heroic force for you to realize who you are and what your place in the world is?
Oh, wow. I'd have to say my mother.
Yeah.
Yeah, she strong, brave, hardworking, career, but still a mother, like, kind of amazing. I always like to tell this story about my mom. Like, she was like, she is a perfectionist, and I am not. I'm like quick and dirty, get it done,
Uh-huh.
kind of chaotic. And when we first got into Haiti, I was living at the airport base, and it was really terrible. I mean, the conditions were horrendous. Like, we would be rationed buckets of what you get, like a quarter of a bucket of water to bathe in the field, and everybody was sick. You would be sitting on one bucket being sick and throwing up. I mean, it was terrible.
Yeah.
And these two friends that I made and I heard that the United Nations base down the street had like drinking water and Wi-Fi and all these kinds of things. We have to get into the UN. So I flew back to the States and I told my mom, I said, Mom, I need a badge. I need you to make us badges that to get us into the UN. And my mom made us these fake badges with like barcodes from like a bread bag and like Haiti disaster from fake name and like all that stuff. And it worked. And we moved into
Wow.
the UN base. And I just, it's like she's like, you're gonna get me arrested someday. I'm like, I don't know. I think it's okay now. But
Yeah.
she would do whatever it takes to keep us safe, and whatever we needed. It is pretty amazing.
I remember going over to Italy the first time, and one of my best friends had been to Germany and been through Europe, and he made me a fake ID, like a college ID, just in case I needed street cred. I needed extra oomph because it helps. I mean, passport's one thing, but it was like you'll have a college ID, but I remember doing the same thing. It was
But you
100%
very
fake.
similar,
Yeah, yeah. It's wild.
best friends.
Yeah, exactly. So let me ask you this. If you can meet one person alive on the planet right now, whether it's an entrepreneur, someone that's doing good work on the planet, that's inspirational, spend some time with them that might help you on your journey, who would you love to meet and hang out with?
Man, you ask good questions.
Thank you.
Um, I'd really like to meet Blake from Tom Shoes because um, I really think it was amazing how he got people to think about conscious consumerism in
Yep.
a way that, revolutionized the world. And he's been able to do that in a way that no other brand has been able to do. And I'd love to learn from him. Like, I think it's Muskowski.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. I read a book at the beginning of the year about how things go viral, and I think about that because there's so many people that do environmental friendly things like Ben and Jerry's and all these other big corporations, and somehow they make it, and somehow they maintain, they keep it going, they do it in the right
Yeah.
way. They're a model of behavior and entrepreneurship, all of those things. They never lose sight, and I find it very
Yeah.
interesting, you know?
Yeah, I do too. And I've heard a lot of slack about, like the Tom Shoes model. Even they opened up in Haiti and closed after 13 months. Like, I mean, Haiti's a tough environment. But
Yeah.
I'll say Blake did not say he wanted to do anything other than put shoes on kids' feet.
Yep.
So I know like, people like, oh well it, destroyed his local business and all that stuff is true. But his mission was, I want to put
That's
shoes on
it.
kids' feet. And that's what he did. And then as he was learning the other effects in local communities, started to revolutionize and change his model. But at the end of the day, none of this matters unless you have buyers. None of this matters unless you can move inventory, because I can only buy so many of my own handbags, like,
Yep.
so I want to learn how to do that. How do you penetrate the market in a way that really matters, that would allow us to grow our business and employ 10,000 more people, and
Yep.
because I don't know how to do it, and I would love to learn that.
It's interesting. The best thing that I've ever heard from an entrepreneur was if you do it the right way, what you're doing is you're solving a problem. Like for
Mm,
him, the problem was kids not having shoes, period. That's it. It's not about
mm,
units. It's not about all of this money. It's not about all these things. It's about one focus, and then everything can build out from there.
mhm.
you know?
It's true.
It's totally part of it. So let me
Yeah.
ask you this. What is the motivation for you to maintain your energy for your business, for what you're doing, to do it at a high level, to take care of your soul, your family? What is it that gets you up when that alarm clock goes off in the morning?
Um, economic freedom is is an incredible thing. And I have personally watched how it has revolutionized lives, families, communities. And I'm really grateful to get to be a part of that. Even for myself, I mean, there were so many times, like my first year in Haiti, where I would only eat avocados and canned tuna because I had nothing else to eat, like really struggling financially and not having the access to basic needs. And I had it for a small sliver of time, and the difference was I could leave at any time I wanted and I had access to credit. Haitians don't have that.
Yeah.
In my own business in Haiti, I don't have credit for my own company because we don't, it's just a different way of living. And every day I want to see more people financially free,
Yeah.
more families financially free. And that is my motivation and driver. And I am a job creation activist, and that is the core of who I am.
So on book launch day, I want to ask you this. Let's say you have a
Okay.
dream tonight. You
Mhm.
run into the 18-year-old version of you and you have a big coffee table book in your hands. And it's your life so far, and you hand it over and say, "This is how your life turned out so far." Would that young version of you believe it?
Definitely not. I was a moron at 18.
We all are. No idea.
Yeah, I had, and that's why, people, will say, very kindly that it's really amazing what I've done and blah, blah, blah. And I just think to myself, this is my job too. Like, it's amazing what Haiti has done for me. It,
Yeah.
it has given me this life that I can feel proud of, and like that, makes me want to get up every day. I don't know if you watch the news, but Haiti's been in a struggle for quite a while with
Yeah.
the assassination of the president and to the gang war. So like 90% of the capital where our factory is taken over by gangs. And I haven't been to my own business in 14 months because the airport is shut. You can't get in.
Yeah.
And even if I could, it would be wildly unsafe for me and my team.
Yeah.
But I so I have this I like a personal loss. Like the company doesn't need me; they're running perfectly fine without me. But me, I want to go in selfishly because I miss the team and I miss the feeling of like being alive and like every second. I used to feel like when I lived in Haiti, every second mattered.
Yeah.
Everything had this urgency to it. And here in the States, I find I can get clouded with. There's like what you were talking about earlier, the suicide rate. It's like because you can so easily get clouded and unfocused, and things that really shouldn't be important become important.
Mhm.
And so that's why I loved living in Haiti so much, and I felt most alive in Haiti because that there was no time for that sort of nonsense.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah, and I feel like that. I had mentioned before my son's on the spectrum about how I've been in that special needs community for a while, how those kids just don't get dinged by all of these things that affect everybody else. Like literally
Mm,
headlines will not factor in. And it's like it's a level of simplicity and like the base Maslow like needs that just make you feel okay with being alive. I mean, almost
mm,
in a Buddhist notion of just watching a bird fly by is okay. That's
wow.
it's enough. I
Yeah.
mean, but anyway, so let me ask you this. Of everything that you've done in your life, you've accomplished and more importantly evolved to at this point, what are you the proudest of?
Um, at this stage, I have to say the publication of the book.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Because it isn't just my story. I interviewed about 50 people, mostly my Haitian team members, and some of whom don't speak English. And I feel like they have these incredible stories that will never be heard if somebody doesn't capture them and translate them.
Huh?
And so I'm really excited for people to read their stories because they're such miraculous people.
Do you have a copy next to you?
I don't actually. They're
Uh-oh. It's okay. Yeah, well, I'll have a link to it. So let me ask you this. Everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, everyone that gets your book, everyone that gets your products, that works with you, that knows you, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
oh, what is my perception? Holy cow.
Yeah, that's the therapy one where it's like, oh
Yeah.
my, the PhD
Um,
dissertation.
what is my perception of me? Gritty, hard worker, um, woman who won't say no.
So if you could get into a time machine and go back in time and see one event in human history, you obviously have a lot of adventure in you.
Mm.
What one human event would you want to see? It wouldn't create a tear in time. You would just get to witness it happen.
I mean, so I'm obsessed with history,
Okay?
and and it's going to sound so weird. I don't even know if I should say this out loud, but like I have always been obsessed with slavery and the Holocaust
Yeah.
because these are events that I cannot, and I know that modern day slavery is happening right now,
Yeah.
but it's like the slave trade and it's they're events that I cannot believe happened.
Sure.
I,
I
I
get it.
I can't understand how human beings allowed these things to happen. And I feel like it is unbelievable. And I would want, but see, I would want to go back so I could change
Yeah.
it. So,
Uh-huh. So you could be that Biff in the Back to the Future and everything
yeah,
could change totally. Well, I
yeah.
I remember going through the Holocaust Museum in DC and
Oh, I
walking
could not
through.
speak for 3 days after that.
Oh yeah, walking through all the shoes and everything, and
Oh,
it's unreal. So if anyone wants to get a copy of your book, they want to get any of your products, anything that's going on in your world, they want to know more, where's the best place to go?
on our website, it's demain.com. And demain means two hands because we make everything by hand. And it's DEUXMAINS, demain.com. So that's where all of our products are sold. And also the book, of course, is on Amazon. So if you want a quick Amazon, they're on there, and just throw it in their cart, we'd really appreciate it.
Sure. Sure. So I will put all of these links in the show notes. This has been absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much for taking a minute out today. Thank you for putting your story out there. I really appreciate it.
It was really nice to meet you, Joe. Thank
Yeah,
you.
you bet.